Rangers fans, honestly, the atmosphere around Ibrox these last few days has been absolutely buzzing, and it is easy to see why. The club has stepped into yet another hefty moment of transition, the kind that nobody exactly chooses, but arrives with such force that it demands an immediate response. Ever since word got out that key figures behind the scenes were heading for the exit, everyone has been trying to figure out the scale of the shakeup and what it really means for the team's direction. You can feel that mix of nerves and curiosity in the air, almost like something big is shifting deep within the club. Even if the football on the pitch carries on as usual, what truly caught folk off guard was how quickly everything unfolded. It felt as though the club had finally steadied itself after a start to the season that had already been bumpier than expected. But it only took a single announcement to make it clear that the turbulence was far from over. The changes in the leadership structure were a loud signal that a major reset is underway and that the new hierarchy has no intention of sticking with a plan that has stopped convincing anyone. And just like that, all the old debates about finances, questionable decisions, and a direction that left supporters scratching their heads came roaring back. Over a pint? The chat has been the same everywhere. How much will these departures cost? And how much does that affect the immediate future? Even without official figures, it is obvious this was not just a simple switch of personnel. We are talking about recent contracts, responsibilities taken on not long ago, and compensation payments that are bound to weigh on the accounts. And none of this happened out of nowhere. These moves had been simmering quietly for weeks, almost like a pot about to boil over. Whispers of dissatisfaction, misaligned planning, and internal friction had been building for a long time, and now it has all spilled out into the open. The truth is, the season had already left a few bruises before the football even settled into any rhythm. That flat start in the league, the strange choices in the squad rebuild, and the general uncertainty hanging around the stadium all combined to make the early months feel like a string of problems that needed fast answers. A change in the dugout brought a bit of breathing space, and the new approach on the touchline finally started to give the team some shape again. But even with improvements on the pitch, the discomfort upstairs never really disappeared. The supporters' patience was stretched thin, and the belief in the long-term planning had taken a serious hit. And when a club spends big, the expectations naturally rise with it. Folk were hoping to see a proper step forward. Yet what arrived was a mix of signings that left the squad unbalanced and worse, without the solutions needed for the most urgent issues. Some players still have not shown what they were brought in to deliver. Others never quite seemed to fit. And a few arrived with promise but have not developed as imagined. It is one of those situations where everything feels like it was done too quickly, without the right level of alignment between what the manager wanted and what the board was willing to pursue. Now, with the executive department temporarily led by someone already well known within the club, there is at least a sense of continuity while the new ownership works to restructure things properly. It is a holding period of sorts where the responsibility is huge, but everyone understands the job is to prepare the ground for what comes next. And that next step will demand bold decisions. The search for new leadership, both in football operations and the wider executive setup, is expected to bring strong names into the conversation, because the moment calls for experience, clarity, and someone able to rebuild a structure that has looked out of focus for far too long. Supporters are hoping that whoever arrives gets the freedom and backing to create a strategy that lasts longer than a few months at a time. The demands are high, but the opportunity is massive, because the club finds itself in a place where it can redefine priorities, correct recent mistakes, and win back trust that was damaged along the way. It feels like a page is finally turning, even if the cost of making that turn will echo around Ibrox for quite some time. And nobody inside or outside the club pretends that these decisions come without scars, especially because acknowledging them means admitting that the previous plan fell apart far quicker than expected. Meanwhile, as stories from behind the scenes come to light and former players speak more openly, it has become clearer that there were deep disagreements over how the squad should have been built. Some ideas focused on strengthening the traditional backbone of the team, bringing in players with strong ties to Scottish football, lads who understand the physicality, the culture, and the pace of the league. Other approaches looked abroad, aiming for different profiles that did not always match the demands of the environment here. That clash of visions became another source of tension, particularly because the performances on the pitch did not back up the decisions that had been made. Those contrasting views on the kind of player Rangers needed have left noticeable marks on the squad. And when a season that begins with high expectations ends with more doubts than answers, frustration naturally takes over. Some of the signings have simply not delivered, others have not justified the money spent, and it has created that sense of waste that no one likes to admit, but everyone can see. The consequences of those choices are still felt today, both in how the squad is assessed and in the general mood around the club, which continues trying to find the balance between ambition and proper planning. And as all this noise behind the scenes keeps unfolding, you can feel the ripple running through every corner of the club, the players, the staff, the supporters packed into the stands. Everybody can sense there's a deeper shift happening. Even if folk don't come out and say it straight, it's clear the club's standing at one of those crossroads where every decision counts twice as much as it normally would. There's a feeling that what happens now won't just shape the next few months, but could set the path for the whole direction of Rangers over the next few years. And that's why everybody's paying such close attention to the smallest details, because folk want to know if this time the rebuild will be done with a bit of calm, a bit of clarity, and a vision strong enough to carry the weight of the badge. Inside the dressing room, the impact has been quiet, but it's there all the same. Players are always told to keep their focus on the pitch and nowhere else, but you can't expect that to be easy when the entire structure above your head is being torn down and rebuilt at the same time. Some of the lads are fighting to show what they're worth. Others are trying to work out where they'll fit once everything settles again. And the newer boys are left wondering whether the project that was sold to them is still the same one. It creates an atmosphere where everyone feels the need to push that wee bit harder to make sure the folk coming in next understand exactly why they should be part of the long-term plan. The new coaching team have been doing their best to keep things steady, and to be fair, they've managed to bring a bit of order back onto the pitch. There's more intensity, more structure, more sense in what the team's trying to do with the ball. But even with that progress, the pressure hasn't shifted one bit. Supporters look at the squad and they still see holes, places where the summer business simply never delivered. There are positions crying out for real quality, roles that don't look properly filled, and players who still haven't found their feet. And that frustration hasn't vanished, not even with the improvement in performances. Every time the team walks out onto the park, The scrutiny starts immediately. A loose touch, a sloppy pass, a second too slow on the ball. Everything feels bigger than it normally would in a calmer season. That's the price that comes with heavy investment at a club like Rangers, as supporters expect to see progress right away, and when it doesn't come fast enough, the noise grows, and this season that noise has been louder than most folk expected. What makes it even more complicated is that some of the summer signings are stuck in an awkward middle ground. They're not playing badly enough to be written off entirely, but they're nowhere near delivering what the club thought they'd bring. It leaves them in that strange limbo where nothing feels settled. And at a club like Rangers, nobody wants to live in limbo. Every player wants certainty, wants to know they're part of a project with a proper sense of direction. But until the structure above the manager is sorted and the leadership is clearly defined, that uncertainty will linger. The supporters, for their part, are trying their best to keep things steady, but frustration keeps showing itself in wee flashes. It's not rage, not this time. It's more a deep tiredness. They've lived through rebuild after rebuild, promise after promise, and every time it feels like a proper plan is finally in place, something snaps and the whole thing starts again from scratch. Football's all about emotion, but it's also about patience. And the patience of the support has been tested again and again. Still, the backing the Rangers support gives is something hardly any club in the world can match. Even at the lowest points, the passion never fades. It only becomes more demanding. And as the club moves through this transition, there's this strange tension between hope and weariness. The supporters want to believe the next appointments will bring stability at last. They want to feel sure the long-term structure will be led by folk who fully understand the scale of Rangers, people who know this isn't a club for half-formed plans or guessing games, but at the same time, there's that natural fear that it'll all go wrong again, that the next big decision will be another misstep, that the same old mistakes will rear their heads again. This mix of hope and worry has been following the club for a few seasons now, and it'll only disappear when actions, not words, show that lessons have finally been learned. Inside the boardroom, the entire conversation revolves around that exact point, building something that doesn't collapse the moment the pressure hits. There's a clear understanding now that the club needs a structure that lasts, something solid enough to get through a rough spell without the whole thing falling apart. The American leadership want to introduce a model with more logic, more alignment, more professionalism. They want the top of the organization to be connected clean through to the pitch. And if that's done right, it could change the whole way Rangers operate day to day. But rebuilds like this don't happen overnight. They take time. They take the right people, and every decision has a direct impact on what happens at the weekend. And while all this is going on, the manager's left with the toughest job of the lot, delivering results right now while working with a squad that's still paying the price for a summer window that didn't match the club's ambition. It's a balancing act that would stretch even the most seasoned managers, and yet he's kept the team competitive, even with pieces that don't quite fit the way they should. Meanwhile, the conversation about the squad circles back to the same truth again and again. The summer window wasn't good enough. Supporters know it, analysts know it. The players themselves probably feel it too. Some of the lads have potential but haven't adapted to the pace and physicality of Scottish football. Others seem like they were signed without a clear idea of where they'd fit, and there are players who just haven't shown enough quality for a club with expectations as heavy as Rangers. This has created a situation where the fan base watches the team and sees effort, sees work rate, sees commitment, but still doesn't see the level of quality needed to dominate the competitions Rangers should dominate. And naturally, that turns more attention onto the folk who made those decisions in the first place. Criticism of the recruitment has become unavoidable, not just because certain signings haven't worked out, but because of the opportunities missed. Players who are clearly within reach and could have solved problems that keep showing up week after week. As all this continues to unfold, it's clear Rangers are standing in a crucial moment. It feels like the club is halfway across a bridge, unable to turn back, but not entirely sure what the other side will look like. It's a moment that demands precision, patience, and decisions that can't be made on impulse. And while the supporters watch every move the club makes, Rangers try to find the balance between fixing the present and building a future that finally feels solid. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to get all the exclusive news about Rangers FC. Don't overlook any details about your beloved team. It's crucial for Rangers FC fans. The chatter Röhl, Celtic Park's getting louder by the hour, and folk are saying the air's near crackling with tension. Words spilled out that are key. Celtic star has been left properly raging after a sly wee remark from Danny Röhl, a line that's travelled fast through Glasgow's football circles and stirred up the old rivalry like poking a sleeping beast. Sources close to the squad whisper that the player, one of the club's most influential voices in the dressing room, felt Röhl's comment was a cheek too far, the sort of needle that's meant to draw blood just as the city braces for the next storm between green and blue. Nay bodies repeating the exact phrase Röhl supposedly dropped, but the very vagueness of it has only fueled the rumours. Some say it was a dig at Celtic's mentality, others reckon it questioned the leadership on the pitch. Whatever it was, it hit the mark. Inside Lennoxtown, the mood shifted. Training's been sharp, almost snappy, as if the squad's carrying a point to prove. Those who've seen the player up close describe him as fired up, but focused, no quite losing the hide, but nay far from it either. One member of staff, speaking quietly enough to avoid any heat, said it's the most determined he's seen him all season. Across the city, Röhl's camp is staying silent, which only makes folk wonder if the remark was deliberate. Mind games, a wee tug on the psychological thread that holds these fixtures together. Rangers supporters are chuckling, Celtic supporters are snarling, and the neutral observers are lapping it up like it's prime theatre. Rumour or no, something's simmering, and Glasgow can feel it. The rain might wash the pavements clean, but it canny cool this fire. Whatever happens next, Röhl's wee comment, true or twisted, has done exactly what whispers in this city always do, turned a football clash into a full-blown epic waiting to burst. Greetings, fans. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, as it's greatly appreciated by Rangers FC. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments section below. Until the next video, stay tuned.